You should have an EEO policy. Some states are now requiring it, as I mentioned a moment ago. So after we have the training, or as part of the training, we should make sure we have a revised EEO policy. I still see too many policies that I would say are just not sufficiently comprehensive, not capturing what we need to capture. I think we should include examples. I like to see, if we're talking about an employee handbook, an EEO policy that could basically be pulled out of the employee handbook that has everything that we need to know. What is the policy? What's our non-discrimination policy? What are the protected groups that are relevant for our particular jurisdictions? What is okay and what's not okay? And giving examples of what we mean by, for instance, a hostile work environment is important. We could define hostile work environments, but if we don't tease that out with trainings and examples in our policy, I think that people really legitimately might not know what that means. So let's have examples, some that are obvious, some things like sex-based conversations, inappropriate touching, racial slurs, misogynistic epithets, etc., etc. Lots of those things absolutely should be in our policy, but less obvious examples should be there as well. How we might use terms of endearment in ways that are not appropriate. How we might use jargon or nicknames in ways that might relate to somebody's protected group. It might be kinds of touching that might not be absolutely inappropriate, like hugs. A quick hug is fine if I know you, if it's your birthday and we haven't seen each other for a long time, or if you've had a bad day and you've asked to get a consoling hug, or I see as a workplace acquaintance that you might need a consoling hug. Oh, that's fine. But obviously, that could sort of transition very much into not fine. So let's give some of those examples. In the context of sexual harassment, again, this is not just sex-based. It could be gender, pregnancy. Some states specifically include sexual orientation and gender identity as well. So we want to make sure we capture all kinds of harassment, not just sex-based harassment, in our policy. We want to make sure the scope of our policy is clear and comprehensive, that it's capturing all kinds of communications, not just face-to-face, not just conduct. So electronic media, social media, all kinds of text messages, Facebook, etc., fall into play here, emails. Let's make sure employees know, our managers know, that even things that are happening off the work site or off work hours, on business trips, travel, for instance, still absolutely covered by our policy, not just what happens in our workplace during certain work hours. And as a reminder, non-employees with whom our employees interact also are covered under the scope here. So if one of our employees has a negative interaction with, let's say, a third-party vendor's representative that they have to interact with, if that is inappropriate conduct that they experience, they have a right to complain about that as well. So let's make sure we capture that as well. And some of these states that I mentioned specifically make mention of the idea that non-employees are covered. So we want to make sure we capture that as well in our policy.